morning, everyone. While I talk, I'm actually going to go to my next slide, and you should be able to hopefully play media. And if not, there's a link in um, the chat. And that is actually a video from the entirety of the commit code, or from the beginning of OpenSimulator development to where we are now. So you can kind of, if you want, you watch that while I talk, or maybe just lower the volume or watch it later. Good morning, everyone. And welcome to the 2022 OpenSimulator Community Conference. I know many of you know me and the other people up on stage, but I am the co-founder of Avicon, and many of you know me, of course. Well, I'm Joyce Bettencourt, and many of you know me by my avatar name, Rhiannon Chat Noir, here up on stage and other virtual worlds. This is our 10th year, so that's fantastic. It's amazing to think that, 10 years of the event, and at this point, almost 16 years of OpenSimulator core development. In January, it'll be 16 years. So the first commit was on January 31st, 2007. So a little anniversary for us to celebrate in January. I wanted to, and again, that's what the video is showing, and that's sort of shows the work of many developers on this open source, multi-platform, multi-user 3D application server software that we all love as OpenSimulator. Behind this grid, behind many other public grids, and probably hundreds of public grids and thousands probably of private folks who have little small standalones I'll kind of make it brief from there, but ultimately, on the 10th year of OSCC, we're always thankful for the core developers, of which you'll get to hear from in just a second. And so with that, I will turn it over to Lear, who kind of moderate the core developers, and sort of start this spotlight and start off OSCC. So thank you, and Lear, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Joyce, and welcome everyone. I'm delighted to introduce our core developers. First, we have Crista Lopes from the University of California at Irvine, professor and OpenSimulator core developer. Crista Lopes, better known as Diva Canto, is a professor within the Department of Informatics, Donald Bren School of Information, and Computer Sciences at the University of California, Irvine. And she's a core developer with OpenSim. Crista developed the Hypergrid protocol, which allows users of one OpenSimulator grid to travel to another grid server, and with their identity, avatar appearance, and inventory remaining persistent. Ubit Umarov is our current OpenSimulator core developer. Ubit is currently working on the project since 2012. He was instrumental in coding and implementing the OpenSimulator codebase and many of the updates that were part of OpenSimulator 0.9 through 0.9.2.1, and works on resolving issues and developing the upcoming releases. Kevin Cozens, better known as Andrew Hellershanks, is an OpenSimulator core developer. Kevin has been a member of the OpenSimulator core developer team since March of 2014 and created or maintains several add-on modules, including the OpenSim Search and the OpenSim Profile modules, which are used within the OpenSimulator project. Mr. Blue, Robert Adams. Robert Adams has been an OpenSimulator core developer for many years. His OpenSimulator work includes the BulletSim physics engine, VAR regions, the DSG distributed scene graph, and the simulator experiment, and many performance improvements. Outside of OpenSimulator, he has been a computer developer and researcher for 40 years. His current interests are in distributed computing and robotics. Please check out the website found at conference.opensimulator.org for more info, for speaker bios, for details of the sessions and the full schedule of events. That is at conference.opensimulator.org/schedule. The conference is being live streamed and recorded, so if you have any questions or comments during the session, you can share them here in World or in local chat, and send tweets to @OpenSimCC with the hashtag #OSCC22. Welcome everyone. Let's begin the session. Now let's open this wonderful developer work from our core devs and code enthusiasts who have worked hard to track down bugs and examine potential features. If anyone has a question in the audience, please post it in the text chat. Our 2022 release is OpenSimulator 0.9.2.1. The site notes the list of resolved bugs and over 400 commits. Wonderful work. I'm going to throw out the first question and I'll let the developers decide which one will answer. What are your thoughts about the next release for OpenSimulator? What would you like to see possible? And Ubit, if you want to warm us up. Oh, please go right ahead, Crista. Thanks.
No, I was passing the microphone to Ubit.
Hello.
Hi, Ubit.
I don't know, there is some echo here. I think it's not mine.
No, you're fine. Pardon me. If everyone will mute their microphones, we'll let you continue. Thanks. Go right ahead.
Well, so as you said, we had released last March version 9.2.1, and we are hoping to release the new working version 9.2.2. That's it. Both have mainly just some performance improvements. For the moment, still no bright, shining new features. We are also working on a new version that will be based and will work on the new .NET 6.0 framework from Microsoft, because as you all may know, we were based on .NET Framework 4.8 on Windows and Mono on Linux, and both those platforms are now dead. They will have no more development because Microsoft decided to create a brand new thing they start calling as .NET Core, and now just rename the .NET 5.0, 6.0, and this current version is .NET 7.0. So there was some big breaking changes between 4.8 and the .NET Framework 4 and the .NET 5. So we are creating a new branch that will work on that new software, and is actually working at this moment. You can find it in our repository branch named .NET 6. And it's working reasonably well. Sadly, we lose some features because they were removed by Microsoft from the main framework. Namely, there will be no support for old machines with just support for 32-bit CPUs, and it will only run on new platforms. Good news, for example, is that it's currently running on the new Apple Silicon, the new machines, M1 CPUs, etc., thanks to the work of a user named Kuga that made the compilation of the low-level native libraries that OpenSim requires. That's basically it. So the next news will be that new branch, that new code that will be running on the new versions of .NET. Okay.
Well, thank you. So you mentioned some concern over older equipment. So how do we balance the changes in technology with Microsoft and this push for constant updates, right? With support for our community? I mean, what are your recommendations?
Well, I don't know. I don't like the change, but they are just, things are, all times evolve, new things are created, and old things stop working just because things. So, of course, our next release will still be for mono and for old for current platforms, and will run still on old machines with old nice CPUs, even 32-bit ones. But we will be forced to change because, as I said, those software that development is frozen in time. They are only releasing some bug fixes, and they will eventually stop doing it, and we will just stop working. That's what happens with software, and unfortunately things change, and we are forced to change with the river, with the wind. Okay.
Well, thank you. So before we began, Kevin, you were mentioning some features in the OpenSearch and the profile, and you had brought up an interesting point. Could you elaborate on that?
So I'm not sure. Sorry, which point were you referring to again?
Well, we were talking about the Firestorm viewer, and you were saying that currently the features that you've supported are stable, but there is a concern about possible changes in the future.
Yeah, I think Ubit said that there's been some changes in how the search and how the profile, the messages relating to it are being handled or sent out. So that may require me to update the search and profile modules to match. That's something I need to be looking into. The other issue I still have to look into a bit more is the fact that there seems to be concern about whether the
I'm sorry, Kevin, your voice cut out for me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah, we've got noise in the background here. Yeah, we need to look at what changes may need to be made to the search and profile module based on changes in the to do with Firestorm and so on. But the other thing I need to be looking at is how well it works with the core groups module, because I've gotten reports that the add-on search and profile modules don't work. Certain features don't work in relation to the core groups. It seems to work fine when you're using the add-on PHP XML RPC based group system, but it would be nice to be able to work properly with core groups, since some people do want to use the core groups. And I also have to review it in terms of, I suspect that there's also parts of the code that need to be enhanced to properly support the hypergrid. There's some function calls and things that are related to hypergrid used perhaps in terms of retrieving profile information that's not in there yet. I can be able to pull that from the external, well, I can pull that probably from the core profile module.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you for that update. You know, speaking of the hypergrid, tomorrow we're going to have hypergrid, thanks to Thursday Amber in her guidance, to 4 destinations. And we're so looking forward to that. Do you know, in the early days of hypergridding, I thought it was a little rough, but here lately, it's like a way of life. You know, it's so smooth. And so Crista, I wanted to throw it back over to you and say, how do you think we're doing as far as our ongoing progress, and are we realizing the dream that you had in the early days?
Well, Larry, yes, very much so. You know, there's some more modern developments in terms of federations and decentralization that, you know, next time that I'll have a big chunk of time to work on this, I would actually like to take a look. which many of you probably are aware that Twitter is going sort of belly up, and a lot of people have moved over to Mastodon. And Mastodon is a decentralized sort of Twitter-like thing. And at its core, there's a protocol that has been standardized by I think it was the WWW committee, the W3C. And it's the activity pub, and it's just a protocol that any software can talk to that allows them to distribute events in a decentralized manner. So I got super interested because I love decentralized and federations architectures. I got super interested in kind of taking a look at how we could perhaps even connect things that we do in OpenSim to things that happen in that other universe there of the activity pub applications, of which there are many. It's not just Mastodon, but Mastodon is the most famous one. So people tend to centralize themselves in walled gardens, in like these big companies that provide nice interfaces and stuff like that. But I am hoping that Mastodon will be here to stay, and I'm hoping that it shows the way of doing decentralized systems, of which OpenSim is an early one. And so it's a long answer to your question, and I'm getting back to your question. Yes, I am. It's very much working according to what I envisioned it to work. And it would be nice to actually make it a little bit more standardized with a bigger world out there, but that's future work.
Well, thank you. That's great. And that's how I reached you last night. That was my first time on.
That's right.
I was actually on Mindly, but yes. So let's see. We had a question from the audience, but first I wanted to welcome Mr. Blue, and we're so excited to hear your session later today. What have you been up to, Mr. Blue?
Well, I am, like you said, I'm presenting this afternoon on my viewer experiments because I've been working on a different architecture for a viewer rather than the kind of monolithic ones, and just hanging around the corners, helping. Like Ubit mentioned, there's been work on Bullet Sim and getting stuff working on the Mac. Kuga has been doing great work there, so there'll be new binaries, and I'm looking at upgrading Bullet Sim to the latest version for the Intel processors. But it should be, we've been working on getting OpenSim working on Intel processors, on ARM processors, and on the Mac processors. It's just been going pretty well. And then I'll see you this afternoon at my talk.
Hey, that's wonderful. Well, we had two questions from the audience before we wrap. One was from Buzzy, and it says, any plans to support the new link set data and Puppeteer announced by Second Life? The answer may be no, but Ubit, do you have anything on that, or? And I can repeat.
Sorry, I was distracted.
Oh, that's okay. Let me repeat the question, and I'll also put it in the text chat. Buzzy asks, any plans to support the new link set data and Puppeteer announced by SL?
Oh, yes, I did answer to the Puppeteer question in chat. We still have no viewer-side code from the viewers that will support OpenSim, not even in the test versions. So we can't actually see what we need to support for that, because we are talking about a protocol that was developed by Linder Labs. So we can't just invent it. We need to see how it works and to properly support it. What was the other feature? Sorry, that was a Puppeteer, and what was the other? I forgot.
The new link set data.
I don't like that. I really don't like. That's a feature that people want for a long time in OpenSim, because there is no real storage, permanent storage of data on the script system. On the people are doing tricks like using the descriptor field of an object to store data, permanent data. So that was finally Lena Lab decided to add the link set data feature to answer to that question, but I actually don't like what they did with it, and I looked at that code like 3 times, and I just gave up to support it because I really don't like what they did. I maybe might create something just for OpenSim. In fact, we already have some Johnson storage that was designed. We have it for years. That has the same purpose. In fact, is even more flexible than just that key value storage feature. But yeah, I looked to it. It's not very hard to add, but I really don't like the way Linux Labs made it, and so I'm postponing supporting it. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Well, our last question, and then we have to wrap. We're running a little over. Is can we still use mono? Nick Swart asks.
Yeah, I already also did answer that in chat. Next release will be in mono, but as I said, this is a main breaking change from mono to the new .NET system. As you all know, Microsoft now owns mono, and they just decide that mono is dead. They are just keeping it. They stopped adding any features like 2 years ago, and they just made a few small releases with just a little bug fixes in the last 2 years. So mono is basically dead. All development they are doing now is on their own system called .NET. Even the command line is on Linux is called .NET. The main tools command line. So at the point we will be forced to do that breaking change and give up from mono and move on to .NET. As I said, I was very afraid that a lot of things will not work. In fact, but as I said, it is working at this moment. We have running regions. Main OS grid plazas are now running and on .NET 6.0. So things are working. We are still using code that Microsoft considers obsolete and tells that stop using it, but it is working. Okay. On the other hand, some other code just was removed. So we lost some features. For example, we lost our script engine, X engine. It will no longer work on .NET 6 because some features it required from the framework were just removed, namely application domains. We also lost the support to run on 32-bit machines, as I already said, and a few other changes. But for now, it is working, and in fact, it also works under .NET 7.0 that was released last month. So we have the road for the future is open. Just need to make changes, and of course, all models that people created will need to be modified, will need updated, including the ones that Andrew was just talking about. But well, we have the road for the future. Things change, and sometimes for no particular reason than just to follow the stream, follow the river, it changes. Well, it's life. Okay.
Well, thank you. And I want to do a shout out to Kuga and other developers who've been supporting the project, attending the weekly developer meetings, and just doing some phenomenal work. Well, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, let me say something, because OpenSim is not just the core devs. A lot of code was created by the other users that are not members of the core. The main job of the core is to keep a current project, but anyone can contribute code through our Mantis and even if our personal emails, because OpenSim is an open source project, and it's not need you don't need to be a member of the core to contribute with code for OpenSim. As I said, our job as core devs is just to keep a current software platform, something so things do work together. Okay. So we also thank Kuga and many others. I did commit code made by Vicent, for example, with a little change on configuration files. And during last year, I accept code for several people, because as I said, OpenSim is an open source project and is open to other people. And the fact of being member of the core is not a required criteria to provide code to OpenSim. Okay.
Thank you. We're fortunate. Melanie Milan just joined us. And Melanie, we're in our last moments, but we wanted to see if you would like to share what you're currently working on. Over to you, Melanie.
I am actually working on the backend servers, mostly these days, not on the actual OpenSim code. I'm doing some work to transfer OpenSimulator's code to a new source code repository and CI system, GitLab. Most of you probably heard of it, which allows pull requests the way GitHub does and more collaboration between non-core members and core members. So it's a quite gargantuan task, as we have a massively outdated system, and the data files that are on the system don't work with the new versions anymore. So a good bit of work there, but needs to be done.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'm afraid we're out of time for today, but the good news is you can chat with the core developers, and later on we'll have a VIP session with them. So thank you to the core developers for their support, past and present, for OpenSimulator. You know, you've paved the way for what is possible today for all of our projects, and we are so thankful for you and for your support. As a reminder to our audience, you can see what's coming up on the conference schedule at conference.opensimulator.org/schedule. Following the session, the next session will begin very shortly in this region, and it's entitled State of the Metaverse. We encourage you to visit the OSCC22 Poster Expo in the OSCC Expo 3 region to find accompanying information on the presentations and to explore the hypergrid resources in OSCC Expo 2 region, as well as the sponsor and crowdfunder booths located throughout all of the OSCC Expo regions. Thank you again to our core developers, our speakers, and to the audience.